but technically this project is going to be about learning to use the text elements in Illustrator. And I've already got the project objectives up here. One of the primary new things, besides working with the text elements, is going to be using layers to help you control your document. This document, visually, we want it to be very complex. We want it to be very layered with really a lot of layers in it, a lot of overlapping. So layers are really going to help you control the elements that you're working with. What I want you to do, or your assignment, is to use at least 15 to 20 vocabulary words and at least 4 layers. You can do far more layers than that if you want to. Also, something that's real important with this project is learning and understanding how to turn your text elements into outlines. If you do graphics for anybody and you send them around, you email them, people potentially may not have the same fonts on their computer that you're using. So depending on if you're sending them a working document, you may need to turn those text elements to outlines. So I'll definitely want you guys to do that with this project too. After you position and stylize the text element that you work with, just simply turn it into outlines. And that really also frees your computer up a little bit with rendering, because something that's flattened and turned into simple vector outlines requires less processing from the computer. So this graphic visually can look like whatever you want it to, and also we're going to play around with doing some different effects and stuff like that with the graphic too. So and I know Blackboard and the web is not working real good right now, but the vocabulary words are already up there. I tried to click on them, it didn't really open, so you may have to look at those vocabulary words later. But let's see. I've already got my vocabulary words open somewhere. There's my PDF. And let's just say I'm just going to get this first one here, work with it. Control C to copy that, then go back to Illustrator, and I'm just going to do a regular print document. I'm going to set it up at tabloid size. Tabloid size is another common size, just a little bit larger than letter size, 11 by 17. You can do yours portrait or landscape style, whichever way you want to do it. Okay, and I've copied that, and I can paste what I copied right into Illustrator, and it's going to come in as a text element. So Control V to paste, and there it is. And it comes in all together, and I need to separate that. So the way that I'm going to separate this is I'm just going to click right on it, double click. And once I do that, I actually get my cursor in there. So I'm going to highlight analog. When you do this, separate your vocabulary word from the definition. So I'm going to cut that, Control X to cut. Then I'm going to click off onto my desktop so that nothing is selected. Then I'm going to paste analog. And now what I want to do is choose a look, a different font for this. So the real quick way to do that in Illustrator is just right-click on that text element, go to Font, and I get a visual of all the fonts that I have. If you want to load fonts on the computer that you're working on, I think I remember how to do them on the Mac. You can do that. You can download some fonts. Do realize if you put them on the PCs, they will be erased next class period. So if you want to, you would have to save them to your jump drive or something like that. So let's say I'm going to use this font here. The definition should have the same font as the vocabulary word. And legibility is important with this project. Do try to design these so stuff is still legible. So this may or may not work with this. Let's see if it's still legible. That's okay. It's still got a degree of legibility to it. I'm going to, that's pretty long because that's in one long line. So what I'm going to do is double click on this and sort of simplify it. I'm going to double click right there and hit enter. Whoops. and I really can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just double click here, hit enter, double click there, hit enter, and that's good. Right now that's, I don't know if it's left justified or what's going on with it. So I'm going to get my character controls up, and that's not really showing me what I want. But this will let me decrease the width between my text elements. Like I can go -50, and it's basically going to take space away from in between them. You can also change the height, the space in between them, make them wider, but I really just simply want to, I think it's under paragraph, yeah, I want to center justify that element, and that looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it's fine for what we want to do right now. And also I want you to be aware that you can further stylize these elements by turning them into outlines. If I right click on this, I can turn this object into outlines, and by doing that, you know, you can break it apart. So when I do that, it's still a grouped object, so right click again, ungroup, and let's say I wanted the A to get a little bit more attention, make that a little bit larger, you know, reposition it maybe, and then regroup it. Right click, I don't see my regroup command, so I'm just going to Control G to regroup that. And then you know, if I want to do a different color with this, of course I can just always be aware when you're working with your color, is the color trying to go into the fill or the outline. You know, ideally you do want to put your color into the fill. So I'm just going to pick a light color for that, pick the same color for this, and then I'm also going to turn this into outlines. Some of the other things you can do to stylize this is under Effect, you can do some of the warps. Try to stay away from a lot of these effects down here. They're actually raster effects. They actually pixelate your elements and change the legibility, but the warp is cool to do. You know, I can pick any one of these and then hit preview, and you know, that's a pretty simple, you know, effect. You know, I've got lots of things that I can do to that to get some different looks out of it, and they're all different sorts that you can do on here. So I'm just going to go with this one that I have, but do be very aware of this. Notice that this object, it's got a problem. It looks one way, but it's being rendered the other way. We want to change that. We want it to actually look like what the rendering is. So with a lot of these objects, if you do an effect on it, you need to expand it. So to expand this, I'm going to go to Object and Expand Appearance, and then it looks like what I need it to look like. Now, you do have to do at least 15 to 20 vocabulary words, but remember, we're doing a montage, and your graphics can, I really want you to fill your page up with elements. Don't bring in any shapes, anything other than text elements. Let me find my layers. And I'm going to show you how we can make this one word into a background. So right now I'm just on layer 1. Let's say I'm finished with this. I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to make analog a little bit bigger so that it visually sort of goes a little bit better with the word. And then I'm going to group both of those together, Control G to group, zoom out a little bit more, and then I'm going to click down on this thing. There are two ways to do a copy and paste command. The regular way is Control C to copy, Control V to paste, but you can also do a drag copy command. You click down on the object you want to copy, you hold down Alt, and then you drag, then you release. And then if that works, you can do a duplicate command, and it's going to duplicate your last function that you did. So Control D is going to duplicate what I did, and then what I'm going to do is get all of those, Control G to group those, click down on it, hold down Alt, drag to the side. I'm going to offset it a little bit, and I shouldn't have clicked off. If I wouldn't have clicked off, I would have been able to repeat that. And then I'm going to do it one more time. Click down on the object, hold down Alt, go over to the side, And then what I'm going to do is shrink all of that so it really starts to become a pattern. You know, if it's small, it becomes a pattern. So I'm going to group all of that, hold down Alt, and you shouldn't do this too much. It does start to affect you know, the processing of the computer a little bit if you get too much and it's too small. So I'm going to do it just one more time. Just put that there. And then that's cool for like the start of a background. I'm going to lock that layer, and then I'm ready to do a different word on a different layer. So I'm going to make, in my layers palette, make myself a new layer. And that one's already locked, so now I need another vocabulary word. Let's get this one. Let's say bit. So select that, Control C to copy that, go back to Illustrator. And I've got a blank layer and it's selected, so my paste is going to go into that layer. Also visually, if you don't want to see what you did on the previous layer, you can turn that off and then paste into there. And again, just to show you this technique, select the bit I want to cut, Control X to cut, click off, Control V to paste, find myself a font. I'm going to go ahead and turn this to outlines. Don't leave it as a text element. Turn it into outlines. If you want, you can ungroup it. You can stylize it a little bit. Then I'm going to regroup all of that, Control G to group. If you want to, you can add a warp sort of deal to it to get something custom out of it, not just you know, the stock look of the font. And really just to experiment with the software. And again, we can see this needs to be expanded. It looks two different ways. We need it to look one way. So I'm going to do that under Object, Expand Appearance. And same thing with this. Going to choose the same font. And then I don't want this to just be one line of information. So I'm going to go into this, hit Enter. Sort of get that a little more stacked. And then somehow or another get these both working with one another. And you know, you've got many options for how to get your text elements working in here. You know, you can twist them, turn them, you know, any direction you want. But do get beyond just doing everything sort of on the parallel, you know, normal straight across sort of thing. You can also, of course, do lots of warps to them, do lots of color changes to them, and but that's it in a nutshell. Anybody got any questions about that? Now, it's pretty simple in a lot of ways what you're doing, but visually I'm really concerned with after you get your graphics sort of laid out and finished, are the elements still legible? You know, can they still be read? And is your graphic interesting? You know, did you despite all of the words that you're using, did you utilize the colors and opacity to get your elements to look as interesting as possible? Also note, under the opacity tab, you can also change your object from normal visibility to all of these other modes, and those other modes allow the other elements to do different sort of visual things. So, you know, really a very experimental project just to play with the visibility of your all these elements that you're playing with. Questions? All right, well, just go forward and let me know of any questions that you should have.